What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing the profile that I took to my final tournament of 2025, and that is of course going to be Hecahand Chimera. Now there's a couple of things that went really well, a couple of things that didn't go so well, and what I wanted to kind of bring you was my tournament report as well as a profile update so you can see exactly what I played, what kind of I liked to do, what I didn't like to use. I'll either take you through the main, the extra, and of course my side deck as well, so you have a bit of an idea of what to take in and out. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. When I look at all the decks in Phantom Revenge, I've actually had a lot of fun with all three of them right now. I've been able to take Craft and Hecahands to a tournament. I do want to be taking Kill Tunes to my next tournament as well, just to kind of see how they physically play. And I feel that all of these three decks are just another nice, decent bit of support away from being absolutely busted. So I'm going to take you through the profile. I'll talk you through my matchups as well. So my first round matchup was up against Dragatail Dragon Maid. I bricked. They won the game 1. They only opened up all Dragon Maid monsters, and my Enfield was pretty strong. It was able to kind of deal with what they had. And then in game 3, it was a lot of back and forth, a bit of grind out, and I was able to win that one. In round number 2 was Centurion Bestials. I wasn't fully ready for it, but something interesting did come up, and ultimately probably what lost me the duel, but I ended up scooping anyway, was I activated Hecahand Xeno. Now, with Hecahand Xeno's effect, what you can do is you can look at 2 monsters from your opponent's extra deck, summon 1 to your field. I decided to summon the SP Little Knight, and then the question came out is what happened to SP Little Knight if I use its effect to banish it? Does it come back to my field? Does it come back to my opponent's field? During the tournament, it was ruled that it goes back to my opponent's field because we didn't know the exact answer. We were just like, well, it can't go to my banish zone, so maybe it goes back to my opponent. Ultimately, it then ended up me facing down a field of the Centurion Lagathar plus a Snake Eyes Doom Dragon, and then there was a Chaos Angel, and then there was also the SP Little Knight. I was like, well, if I had the SP Little Knight, I could have disrupted a little bit more. Ultimately, ended up losing that one anyway. Went to round 3. Round 3, I was up against Archmages. I was able to win that one. And then round 4, I was up against Mitsu. I lost game 1, won game 2. They ran into, again, Hecahand Xeno kind of being like an MVP for this entire tournament. They ran into Xeno and forgot about its destruction by card effect. So they used Murakumo to destroy it. It then summoned, took control of all of their monsters. And then in game 3, I just couldn't break, the only interruption I had was a Godos against my opponent, and they were able to kind of stop it, and then pretty much built out their field, and I couldn't break through it. But I had a lot of fun with the deck. There's a couple of bits that kind of came down to me not knowing the lines and not learning the lines of the Chimera, which is on me, and then just other bits as well. So I was on 3 of Ibtel for the Hecahands and 1 Yudel. This is kind of like a pretty straight up standard lineup. Now, unless we get a new Hekahand spell or trap where Yudel becomes that next bit better, Ibtel is still insanely powerful. Reveal this to special summon any Hekahand from the deck. It just gives you direct access to your Godos, your Brus, or your Gygus. Another thing in the Mitsurugi matchup as well is both Gygus and Brus whiffed 3 times. Purely because I think on the first one I revealed a Dominus Impulse. On the second time I revealed a Futsu, which obviously I couldn't summon. And on the Gygus I revealed 2 spells, and then I think it was a Habakuri, so I couldn't summon any of them, which kind of really did suck. But that's just kind of part and part of it. Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping we don't get a really cool spell, because if we do, then I'm going to need to pick up another high rarity of this card. But the Ibtel I think is absolutely amazing. I love all of these cards. The fact that they have send effects as well means they work even better with the Chimera fusions and all the other plays you want to try and make. But ultimately, I think this ratio is fine. If anything, I have seen builds that play a 2 and a 1, which I also think is absolutely fine as well. I just quite like seeing this card, because if I see this card, it lets me either bait out an Ash, or it lets me use it after the Ash or after Nibiru or anything else in between. Then, like I've already mentioned, the Gygus, the Brus, and the Godos. For those of you unfamiliar with how these cards work, so the Ibtel and the Yudel, they reveal themselves in the hand, put themselves back into the deck, but the Yudel lets you add a Hekahand spell or trap from the deck to the hand, and the Ibtel lets you special summon any Hekahand monster from the deck except itself. If Ibtel is sent to the graveyard, it lets you revive a Hekahand monster from the grave. If Yudel is sent to the graveyard, you get to add back a Hekahand spell or trap. For your Gygus, your Brus, and your Godos, my go-to usually is the Brus, just for the pure fact that by the time I get to it, they've probably activated a hand trap or 2, and then being able to use the Brus to technically take another card from their hand is really, really important. The Gygus lets you look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's extra deck. If there's a monster among it, you summon it to your field. And then the Godos, it lets you take one of your opponent's monsters from the graveyard and summon it to your field, but only during their turn. So this is your biggest disruptor during your opponent's turn. This one I feel really takes away from your opponent's advantage. And what I kind of found when I was using the Brus is it really did force my opponent to then chain any particular type of hand interaction that they had. If they had the Fey Mana, they chained it because they didn't want the risk that I saw the Fey Mana and then summoned it to my field. And it actually put them under a lot of pressure, so I really rate the Brus. The Gygus is okay. I don't think it's definitely the worst of the three in my opinion, but I still like the fact, like when I say the worst of the three, that's not a really bad thing. I'm not like that is terrible. It's just like for me, I go Brus first. I go Gygus if I want to extend that little bit further, and then I go to Godos. Now, I know more times than not, the common play to go would be the Gygus, because you look at the top three, you've got a higher percent chance. Like, your opponent could have a whole hand of spells or whatever, you can risk it. But like, and you get to see a 1 of 3, whereas the Brus is a 1 of 1. That's it. You get a 1 of 5, but you don't get to see the other options. So it's a 1 of 1. If you hit it, you hit it. If you don't, you don't. Whereas this, you get 3 options, and it's like a bit more consistent. But I really do like the Brus. I think it just works really, really well. They all have the same illusion effect that neither monster can be destroyed by battle, so they can kind of be quite good if you're putting up a wall. Then you've got 3 of the hidden Hekahands. This card's really kind of cool as well. This is kind of like the rotor of the deck. So when you activate, you can send any other card you control to the graveyard. So this one then, by sending another card you control, it's really good because you can send a Chimera Fusion, recycle it. It's a shame it has to be cards you control, but it also means you can send the cards you take control of from your opponent. So if you do send a card, you get to set a Hecahand spell or trap directly from the deck. But it's on activation, it just lets you add a Hecahand monster from the deck to the hand. So it's another way of getting to your Idel or your Ibtel. But more times than not, you always want to be sending with this because then it lets you set one of the counter trap cards or a Tartarus, which I still quite like Tartarus. It has a secondary effect to banish it from the graveyard to then make your opponent draw a card, discard a card. And the reason you do that is that your Godos, your Brus, and your Gygus all allow to summon themselves if your opponent adds a card from their, anywhere to their hand, except during the damage step or draw phase. So, kind of cool ways to get these to special summon them. Sometimes I try not to activate the effects where I don't have to. I like to get the first one off of the Ibtel, and then I like to get the second one during my opponent's turn when they naturally summon, and mainly being the Godos, naturally search, because I don't want to give my opponent that option to refresh the hand. Sometimes it can be quite good if they put a monster to the graveyard, because then there are other cards like the Godos that will be active straight away, and then there's a card in my side deck that I actually do quite like to play as well. The final 3 cards is the 1 Tartarus, the 1 Ibal, and the 1 Yudal. So your Yudal is your spell and trap counter negate. You've got your monster negate, and these ones both negate the activation, destroy them, and if you do, you can set those cards. Remember, if they're in the graveyard and you negate the graveyard effect, you technically don't destroy it, so it means you can't set them. So it can get quite awkward. I quite like Tartarus, but I can see how Tartarus can be considered a bit of a brick for the pure fact that this lets you either fusion summon a Hekahand monster, fusion summon a Hekahand fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from the field and or grave. But if you use a face-up monster that is owned by your opponent, you get to treat that as a Hekahand monster, which is probably what I use 99.999% of the time. At the moment in time, using Tartarus 100% of the time, because the second effect is if you control a Hecahand, you get to target a spell, track your opponent controls, and return it to the hand. There's very few times where that's quite useful, unless it's like an end phase and you want to try and return one of your opponent's Drakatau's spells or traps, trap card. There's not really a huge benefit behind it. Moving on to the illusion monsters, branching on into the Chimera monsters as well. So for the overall bridge between both sides of the deck, you've got your 3 Nightmare Apprentice. So discard a card, special summon it, and then on field add an illusion monster from the deck to the hand. And the illusion monster you can search, of course, will be your Ibtel, your Yudel, any of your Hecahands, or of course you can work your way into either Mirror Sword Knight or the Cornfield Kotal, which I'll talk about in a minute. But my ideal normal summon for the deck will be the Gazelle. Now, the reason that I prefer this over the Mirror Sword Knight is that if I go Mirror Sword Knight and I tribute off and they ash me, I instantly lose to the ash. Whereas if I go normal summon Gazelle and they ash me, I still have that option of already hard opening up a Chimera Fusion. I can still get its fusion effect to let me add an illusion monster when it's used as fusion material. Like, there's loads of different things that this can do for me, and it's kind of why I prefer this to be my normal summon. And the other way around that I do it is I do play the 1 Cornfield and the 2 Mirror Sword Knight, just because I wanted to respect Droll a little bit. Like, I didn't want to use the Cornfield and then get Drolled and go for, like, if I go for the Gazelle, I instantly lose, because then I can't search anything off to the back of the Droll. More times than not, you can go Kotal, you'd go into the Mirror Sword, normal summon the Mirror Sword, tribute off. More times than not, your opponent is not going to ash this, they're probably going to be ashing this, but it's just one of the ones that you read the environment, read the situation. But more times than not, I was able to go through either Nightmare Apprentice, or I was able to go through Ibtal, more, and I would also go for the Brus first. So I would prefer to use my plays of going Ibtal, go into Brus, and then straight away the Ibtal kind of checks for an Ash Blossom. And then when I go for the Brus then kind of checks for an Imperm, it checks for a Veiler. It then checks for any other type of hand trap or hand interaction that would affect that one. And more times than not, if they're just like, yeah, okay, cool, and they let you see them, let them look at a random card in their hand straight away, is either because they've only got spells and traps or they've got no way to stop it. And as soon as you've done that, you've already checked for the Ash, you've already checked for like an Imperm or a Veiler. So you'll then kind of open up to go for the Gazelle, or you open up to go for the Mirror Sword Knight. So it kind of gives you the best of both. I've got the one Master Tau, I say Master Tau, these are like the bricks. Master Tau, Big Win Baphomet, Evil Hero, Sinister Necrom. Now when I say they're the bricks, what I mean by that is they do nothing on their own. And what I mean by that is I still need to be able to send these to the graveyard. If they get sent to the graveyard, happy days, which is why we do play Forbidden Droplet a little bit later on. This one I saw in my hand way too many times. You very rarely get it from the deck because you don't really want to be summoning it from the deck through any of your other means. More times than not, you're going to use it as fusion material to then target an illusion in the grave and then summon it back. The Necrom is literally only in here to be sent from deck to the grave with your Gazelle. I say Gazelle, it's not Gazelle. With your Baphomet. And by doing so, you would then banish it from the graveyard to summon out your Adusted Gold. Adusted Gold is a level 4 Fiend and you go into Fiendsmith plays. And then you've got the one Master Tau. If it's sent to the graveyard, target an illusion in your grave and special summon it. But you can't special summon in a graveyard except illusions for the rest of the turn, which is absolutely fine. The idea is that this helps you get into your side deck piece, but it also does help you loop back your illusion monsters. So it can help you get back your Godos, it can help you get back your Gygus, anything else like that. Because the fact of the matter is it lets you special summon any illusion in the grave, which is really important. But it's one of the ones, if you see it in your hand, you don't want to see it in your hand. Again, it's the one you want to send off of your Baphomet. And then the final card is the one Engraver. Like, this is the one good thing about the Fiendsmith package for this deck is you can afford to literally only take up your extra deck. The only other card you play is the Necrom, the Adusted Gold, and the Engraver. There was a couple of times where I was like, oh, I kind of like the idea of playing Lacrimar because it opens up the door to a light and a dark Chaos Angel sometimes, but it also opened up to getting another light fiend into the graveyard. So it's something that I'm tempted to play. It might bump the deck to 42. The issue is, again, if I see Lacquer in my hand, it's completely useless. I don't want it to be there. But that's something to consider. Then got the free Chimera Fusion. There's a couple of times where I saw 2 Chimera Fusions and not enough materials, and I was like, maybe I'll cut this down to 2. And I kind of experimented with that as I was with my siding patterns. I was like, right, let's side one out and see how we do. So something I kind of need to look on. And then for the non-engine, free Fulos, free Ash, free Droplet, and then 2 Chalice. Now, 2 Chalice actually put in a lot of work for me. So this was for the times where if my opponent Arthulioned me, if they went to the damage step, even though I could do it with Droplet, there was times where I didn't want to send some of my own stuff, and Chalice actually put in a lot of work for me. So I was actually really happy with this one. So no complaints with Forbidden Chalice from me. If you want to change it, by all means you can do. I felt that like Droplets and Chalice might be considered a little bit too much, but there are times where you actually want to put your stuff in the grave, and then there's times when you don't. So I ended up facing down D-Fissure a couple of times today in the Mitsurugi matchup. That was quite annoying, but that's kind of part and part of it. So I don't know. Like, I like Chalice. I think it puts in a bit of work. There were times where Droplet was better. There's times where Chalice was better. I'm quite happy to have the deck at 41 cards and play it like this, and maybe even put in a Lacrima and play it at 42. But that's just preference. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the fusion monsters, we are playing 2 Hecahand monsters, and the one Jazar and the one Xeno. Xeno, again, as I've already mentioned, was like a mini MVP. Like, a lot of people forgot that it's secondary effect. The fact that it gets me look at my opponent's extra deck as a quick effect was insane, because I looked at, like, for example, I think I used it in the Mitsurugi matchup, and I saw Zeus, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll take the Zeus. In the matchup against the, not Christrons, the Centurions, I saw Cosmic Blazer and Hieratic Seals. I was like, okay, cool, well, I'll summon the Hieratic Seals. I didn't have a dragon to summon, but it was still kind of a fretful card that was like, cool, I can tribute this off, non-target, return a card. I also saw SP Little Knight, and I think it would have been a Typhon, it was Typhon and SP Little Knight. So I think this card is really cool. I like the Jazar as well, but the fact that it's just during my main phase, I get to add a Hecahand card is good. But I would love to have been on summon, would have been quite nice. Still really decent. I feel 1's enough. There are sometimes where I'm tempted to play 2, but you can recycle it if you correctly summon it. But remember, it's mainly for its additional summoning mechanic, which lets you summon it via tributing off a Hecahand monster and a monster owned by your opponent. Then for the other fusions, we've got the one Chimera, the King of Phantom Beast. I never made this. I know I'd say that, but I made it once. Baphomet and the Mythical King, I've made this so many times. This is like my first go-to, just because it's a lot easier to make, because it requires a mixture of Beast, Fiend, or Illusion, whereas this one is specifically Beast and Fiend. But then this one just sets up your Fiendsmith plays. It's also a level 6 Fiend, so it helps you go into your High Wave King and everything else. Chimera, the Illusion Beast, I never made it. I did not put in Chaos Angel. That's the one card that's missing in here, but I feel like this sometimes will come up, just to be able to go attack, reduce to 0, and attack, or negate its effects, and then attack, or however you need to. So I still like this idea. I still like this idea. Like, having both of these in the grave could be really good. This one in the graveyard is probably a little bit better, just because you do banish a lot of stuff as well. But the fact that this can let you revive... I mean, like, this is really cool, but because it lets you revive from the graveyard. But I felt like just having these as being treated as Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, was probably the best use I got out of them. And then for the Fiendsmith cards, 1 Lacrima, 1 Desiree. I don't think I summoned Desiree at all. And then 1 Guardian Chimera. I actually summoned Guardian Chimera a couple of times. One time I chain blocked it, so my opponent couldn't actually or stop it. The other time my opponent negated it and destroyed it. So I was like, okay, cool, kind of part and part of it. For the Link monsters, got the 1 generic SP Little Knight, and then backed up by the Fiendsmith package of the 1 Requiem, 1 Sequence, 1 Agmonde. Go into this all the time when you go through Fiendsmith route. I went into this one 99% of the time as well. Agmonde I went in like once or twice. Again, I need to kind of get my head around the best way to play this to get the most out of it, because I kind of missed up one of my plays and I had to equip this to Lacrima, which was enough to destroy, I think it was the Dragon Maid Shoe. But yeah. The last one was the Abao Q. I think this could probably be Chaos Angel as well. I think I used this like once, and the whole idea is that you make this, you climb all your way up to this, use this to bring back one of your Hecahand monsters so that your counter traps are then live, and then during your opponent's turn, you've either got to discard and destroy, or you've got to discard and revive. And the last 2 cards are the XZs of the High Wave King Caesar and the Stupa Star Slayer Typhon. So Typhon actually puts in a decent amount of work. He's probably better in the Mitsurugi matchup for me, but again, kind of comes down to the environment and the current state that's going on. But again, this could be a space for Chaos Angel. I feel that Chaos Angel was probably the missing piece from this, and it's something that I definitely want to be getting back into the extra deck. I just need to adapt to what I need. For the side deck, I've got 3 Drown Lockbird and 3 Molchomi Perulia. I put in Droll, never saw it. I put in Perulia. I think I saw it once. And I think it actually got Coolbide, which was really funny. The last monster is the Diabell, the original Sin Keeper. So the idea behind this one is, again, it's an illusion. So you can send, I think there's a combo where you send the Master Tau and then you revive this card from the graveyard. And then it basically is like a semi-anti-spell fragrance where your opponent has to set all of their spells before they spells and traps, to be honest, before they can activate them. And then if a spell or trap becomes set on the field while this card's in the monster zone, except during damage state, target one of them and destroy it. Target one card you control and one card your opponent draws and destroys it. So it's a way to force them to set like their quick plays, which means they then can't be activated, which is really important. But it also forces them to set stuff like Lightning Storm, but you do need to kind of prevent it, because if they go Lightning Storm and then activate the Lightning Storm, you're like, bruh. This one actually would have been really, really good in one of the Mitsurugi matchups, because they open up double evenly matched, Called by the Grave, and then something else. So, yeah, I don't know. Moving on to the spells. So for the spells, I played a card that I really quite like in this deck, and that was free spell card Monster Reborn. I didn't get the maximum use out of it, but I just like what it can do for the deck. The fact that it is, like, if your opponent tries to revive from their grave, you get to go, no, cool, I'll take it instead. And then the benefit that you get by controlling your opponent's monsters for your Hecahands is really cool. It's something that I wanted to experiment with. I'm probably going to swap these the other way around. So rather than having 3 Monster Reborn and 2 Inscription, I'll probably play 3 Inscription and 2 Monster Reborn. But the Inscription, again, it was mainly in here for the Dracatal matchup. I used it in the Mitsu matchup, didn't really do it. No, I don't think I did use it in the Mitsu matchup. I think the only matchup I saw this was the Centurion matchup, and I was so worried about Bystials. And this was purely because I wasn't prepared for Centurion. So I was like, okay, well, what could I side in for my Molchomi Fuulosses? I was like, okay, cool, we'll put in Inscription. So I put in Inscriptions and a Monster Reborn. Saw both my Inscriptions and went Inscription, skipped turn, Inscription, skipped turn. But the issue is in that duel, both of us bricked really bad, which was horrible. And the last card I'm playing is 3 Evenly Matched. Again, kind of just a preference choice of the environment. there were times where if I'd seen this, it would have cooked. I saw it once in the Centurion matchup, but he didn't play anything, so I just used it as a Hecahand fodder to send it, or the hidden Hecahands to send it. And yeah, kind of, it did what it needed to do in that scenario, but never actually got to activate or resolve it. But I can imagine if you do activate and resolve this, it kind of really does cook. So I think the environment was Mementos, there was Yummy, Malice won. I think Malice won, Yummy came second. Dragon Maid came third, which is obviously the one that I won against. Mitsu came fourth, which is the one I lost against. So you can see there's a decent range out there. I just feel that there was a couple of times where I could have played a little bit better. I feel there was a couple of bits where I just couldn't really do a lot, and I was just like underprepared for it. But overall, I actually really enjoyed it. I like the Hekahands. I like what they offer. I like what they do. I tried it with Horus, and I fully understood the way that I was playing the Horus package. It was obviously going to be brickier than it needed to be because I was playing the full Horus package, like one of every name, and I knew that wasn't going to be like as free, I guess. But I did really do. I did like quite enjoy that deck. I just thought it was quite fun. So then I was talking to Hayden, and Hayden's the one that's been suggesting me to play this one, and he wanted to try out the Kashtira one, and then he sent me his list across, and I was like, okay, cool, well, I'll give this a go. I knew I was rusty on the Chimera cards. I haven't played the Chimera cards, like, when the Chimeras were, like, all a bit more hype with the Fiendsmith, I was like, ugh, I don't really want it to just play it because it's got the Fiendsmith. I want to play it when I'm enjoying it, and the Hecahands have really made me enjoy it again, so this is the version that I wanted to give it a go at. I liked it. I like what they do. It was more so remembering, like, the looping of the materials. It's remembering the graveyard effect of the core tool and the mirror sword. It's getting the ratios correct of what you want to use. Yeah, I like it. It's something that I definitely want to keep kind of tweaking around with, changing and updating. But yeah, the next one's going to be Cool Tunes. I'm going to try and play at an environment. It's probably going to be the first one of 2026, which is crazy to think how aware we are right now. But that's what I'm going to be looking forward to, and then kind of going from there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Any questions at all, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. Sometimes your questions actually help me understand what I might have been missing or change something up as well. But I really do enjoy it. Rob also mentioned playing it with the Azumena cards, and I quite like that idea because you'd play like Wanted, Sylvie, and you could technically naturally make Sylvie as well. I think like Chimera Fusion lets you make Sylvie, which is, I think off the top of my head, it's like an illusion and then a level 5 or higher spellcaster. I think, don't quote me on that one, I just don't have the card right here in front of me, but that would be kind of something cool to try it out. The deck is very resilient. Like in a couple of matchups, I had to play through like Nibiru's. In the Centurion matchup, I played through like, I think they had double Veiler, Ash, Fuart as well, which is crazy. And I was still able to present a field. I played against the Dracatel matchup, I played through a Nibiru and a Feymana, I believe. So it can be very resilient when it needs to be, but there will be times where it's like, no, we no play. So something I'm looking forward to, something I want to trial out, something I want to kind of give a go at. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, try, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.